All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're tackling a huge and fascinating idea, a theory that explains a feeling we've all had, but probably couldn't put a name to. It's called the spiral of silence. Okay, seriously think about it for a sec. You're at a meeting, or maybe a family dinner, and every single part of you is screaming, "No, that's not right." But what do? You just stay quiet, you take a sip of your drink. Why on earth do we do that? And that right there is the big paradox a political scientist named Elizabeth Noel Newman wanted to figure out. It's not just about being polite. It's about this powerful, invisible social force that can make a tiny minority opinion seem like the will of the people. And to really get it, we're going to put ourselves right in the middle of a story. Okay, picture this. You're at what might be the most stressful social event ever invented, a high-stakes work dinner. This is where the theory really comes alive. So you get the picture, right? You're there, you're trying to make a good impression, your boss is there, your colleagues are there. The pressure is just immense. You got to be likable, you got to be professional, and you definitely don't want to be the one who makes things weird. And then it happens. Your loud, super confident coworker, we'll call him Larry, basically slams his hand on the table and declares this. You can just feel the oxygen get sucked out of the room. Now, you personally love working remotely. You know you get more done. So what do? What do you say? Okay, but here is the absolute craziest part of this whole scenario. You don't know this, but 18 out of the 20 people at that table, including you, completely, totally disagree with Larry. You're not just in the majority, you're in the overwhelming majority. So why the deafening silence? Right here. This is where the spiral kicks off. And it's not a conscious choice, not at first. It's a gut reaction, an instant, primal, and totally silent calculation that's happening inside everybody's head at the exact same time. So, Noelle Neumann had this really cool idea. She said, we all have this sort of built-in sixth sense. It's constantly scanning the room, but here's the key. It's not looking for what's true or what's right. It's looking for what's popular, what's winning. You're not actually thinking about the logic of what Larry said. Nope. Your brain is laser-focused on everyone else's faces. Are they nodding? Are they smirking? Are they just staring at their plate? And this is where it all goes wrong. See, everyone is nervously looking down, terrified of being the first one to say something. But your sixth sense gets it totally backward. It sees all that nervous quiet and thinks, whoa, everyone must agree with this guy. It whispers in your ear, uh-oh, looks like I'm the only one here who thinks Larry is completely off his rocker. And what's the engine driving this whole thing? It's something deep, something primal. It's the fear of isolation. I mean, think about it. For most of human history, getting kicked out of the tribe was a death sentence. And that fear, it's still wired into us. It makes us terrified of being ridiculed, of being the outcast. And that fear is often way, way stronger than our desire to be right. Okay, so we've got this internal fear. Now, let's watch how it spirals outward and totally changes the dynamic of the whole room. So what happens next is a split. Two completely different realities start to form in the same room. Larry, hearing nothing but crickets, thinks he's just nailed it. He feels like a winner, so his confidence explodes. He gets louder. Meanwhile, you hear that same silence and think, oh man, I am all alone on this one. You feel like a loser, so you retreat, you clam up, you become silent. And just like that, you've kicked off this vicious, self-reinforcing feedback loop. The vocal minority, Larry, speaks up. The silent majority stays quiet because they're afraid. Because they're quiet, Larry looks like he represents the whole room, which makes him even more confident. This, in turn, makes the actual majority feel even smaller and more isolated, which reinforces their silence. And down the spiral goes, until the only voice you can hear is Larry's. Okay, so let's zoom out. This isn't just about awkward dinners, right? This happens on a massive scale. And in our society, the spiral has a huge amplifier. But there are also a couple of rare types of people who can break the spell. I mean, in a country with millions of people, you can't exactly look around the room to see who's nodding. So what do we do instead? We turn on the news. We scroll through social media. The mass media becomes our national, quasi-statistical organ, telling us what the climate of opinion is. And the media has these three super powerful tools to make one viewpoint seem like the majority. First, ubiquity. The message is just everywhere. You can't escape it.
Then, cumulation. You hear it again and again and again. And finally, consonance. It feels like every channel, every podcast, every expert is singing the exact same tune. It's basically giving Larry a megaphone and hooking it up to a national broadcast system.
And all of this leads to this wild phenomenon called pluralistic ignorance. This is the final destination of a successful spiral. It's an entire society of people all sitting around that same dinner table, each one privately thinking this is wrong, but looking around and assuming they're the only one. The silence of the many convinces the many that they are the few. It's mind-bending when you think about it. So is there any hope? Who can stop this spiral? Well, there are two types of people who are immune to that fear of isolation. First, you've got the hardcore. These are folks who have basically already been cast out of the mainstream, so they've got nothing left to lose. They're often the voice of the past. Then you've got the avant-garde. These are the rebels, the artists, the reformers. They're willing to be isolated today because they're betting their ideas are the future. They are the only ones willing to stand up at that table and say, actually, Larry, I disagree. All right, let's head back to that dinner party for the big finale. This is the real kicker of the whole theory, the part that ties it all together. Okay, so the dinner's over, you made it through. Larry's walking away feeling like a champ, thinking he won everyone over. But the second you get in the car with your coworker, the door closes and boom, the dam breaks. Can you believe that guy? Suddenly, everybody is saying what they really think. And you realize there's this massive, massive gap between what was said at the table and what everyone actually felt. And this reveals what Noel Neumann called the dual climate of opinion. It's fascinating. You've got the public climate. That's what we say out loud to conform and stay safe. And then you have the private climate, what we all truly believe. But here is the most important part, so listen close. Even though the public climate at that dinner party was based on a lie, it's the public climate that sets the rules. It's what becomes reality for the group. Larry won, not because he was right, but because he was loud and everyone else was quiet. So that leaves us with a pretty heavy question to chew on. Think about your own life, at work, with friends, in your community. Which silences are shaping your reality? The next time you find yourself holding your tongue, ask yourself, are you just being polite? Or are you casting a vote for a reality that maybe, just maybe, nobody actually wants?